everyone. Welcome to the Medusa Yarn and Fiber YouTube channel. My name is Nikki and I'm your host. This is a YouTube channel all about different crafts that I engage in, primarily knitting, but also cross stitch and anything textile fiber related, spinning, dyeing yarn, things like that. And so welcome if you're a new viewer. Thanks for returning if you're a regular viewer. And please remember to hit the subscribe button and the like button and comment below if you'd like to help out the channel. So I have to say thank you so much to my viewers who reached out to me over the last 5 months since my last video. I really appreciated it. It was very thoughtful of you. I'm fine. I've been fine. I think at the end of February, I slipped into a little bit of COVID fatigue, which a lot of us in the world have done. It just was getting to be just so tiresome. I've been so fortunate in that I haven't lost anybody close to me. I've stayed healthy. My kids have stayed healthy. My husband has stayed healthy. We're fully vaccinated. But not seeing my mom for now going on 16 months has taken its toll on me. And just, knowing that we're coming to the end has been fantastic, but it did really take its toll on me. So I really just kind of tucked into my crafting, focused on my kids, and just tried to do my best to get through work. And of course, my all-time favorite knitting podcast, The Fruity Knitting. If you are a regular viewer of mine, you know how much I love that podcast. And if you watch it yourself, you know that Andrew has passed away from his brain tumor. And so that was just really, even though I never met them, I adored them, and I really liked I liked his personality and the fact that he always had a smile on his face, even when he was talking about sad things. And it just really got me down, thinking that in this worst time in over 100 years to have a pandemic, to also have to deal with something like that, which a lot of people have to do. Don't get me wrong, I understand that. But I just felt very sad, of course, by that, as I think most people would. So yeah, anyways, I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. It's June now, halfway through June. My kids have been on summer holidays. And so it took a couple weeks. I gave them a couple weeks off, but now they're into summer camps. And I have a little bit more time on my hands to focus on what I love the most, and that is crafting. So let's begin with talking about, I have a finished object. And so I should, right? It's been that long. In fact, I should have tons of finished objects. But I haven't actually done as much knitting as I normally do. I've been getting into quilting. Yeah, I know. Let's all collectively roll our eyes because I'm into another craft. I've been doing a lot of quilting and cross-stitching. But I have finished my beautiful Victoria Diamond Pullover by Jennifer Wood of a Woodhouse Knits, and she's a local designer. And I have this book of hers, Refined Knits, that I've knitted. This is now my second garment that I've knitted from this book, and I really, really like it. Here's a picture of the sweater, and this is hot off the needles. I just finished it, and I've just been weaving in a few ends, and I haven't even blocked it yet. So that's why I'm not wearing it. But I still want to show it. It's got this beautiful lace detail on the front and the back, as well as on the shoulders, as you can see, the cuffs, and the band around the bottom. So a lot of lacy detail. And I love it. It's so elegant. And I knit it in my own hand-dyed yarn, Medusa yarn and fiber, on my Spartan's base, which is 100% superfine superwash merino and fingering weight, and on my Hera colorway, which is a nice, very purplish mauve. And it only took about just a little bit over 2 balls of yarn. That's how much I have left of the 3rd ball. So that's pretty impressive. There's the yarn. I just love, this is my new favorite base for knitting garments. It's 100% superwash merino. Well, I shouldn't say my favorite because I only like knitting certain garments in superwash. I prefer non-superwash rustic wools for most sweaters, especially yoke sweaters. But these sort of more elegant, refined sweaters, I think they're more wearable in a superwash yarn. And I just absolutely love it. Not having any nylon in it, I really enjoy. It's very soft, very nice to work with. So for my next podcast, I'll make sure it's been washed and blocked and that I'm wearing it. But I wanted to show you because I was so happy to finally have it off the needles. And this actually languished on Sleeve Island since February. I have not even so much as looked at it until last week. We were heading out to Arkansas. I know, right? I've never been to Arkansas. It reminds me a lot of Manitoba, actually, in terms of just being flat with not a lot to see, at least the part we were in. We went to Stuttgart, which is where my father-in-law currently lives, which is like little middle of nowhere, Arkansas. And so I pulled it out for the car ride. It's about an 8-hour car ride from here. And so we went to visit Pop, and I did the sleeves in the car ride over there. And I was like, why have I taken so long? It didn't take long to finish this off. So it sat sort of languishing for 4.5, 5 months, and now it's finished. So it'll be ready to wear once it starts to get chilly here, which will be in like 4 months. So I won't get a whole lot of wear out of it quite yet. But come fall, I know I will. This is going to be a staple. I just love it so, so much. And I'm getting ready to cast on the next garment from this book. I haven't cast it on yet, but I will show you. Which one is it going to be? The Corinne Pullover, which has a lot of beautiful cabling. I haven't done any cabling in a long time. Look at that. I'm doing this one next. And I've got the yarn. I've had the yarn for over a year for this. It was the Pashmina, Madeline Tosh Pashmina yarn. So it's the called for yarn in a slightly different color. And it's been sitting in storage, and it's time to pull it out and knit it because it's some pretty fine yarn. Of course, I always prefer knitting with my own yarn, but it's nice to expand and knit with other people's yarn as well. So that hopefully will be started next time I see you. So I've got all sorts of works in progress, but I'm going to only show you the ones that I've been currently working on. The ones that are a little bit older, I'm not going to show you, or the scrappy projects. I'm not going to show you just yet until I get a little bit more work done on them. So now I'll show you some socks that I've been working on. These are my I call my car line knitting socks, knitting project. So when I'm waiting to pick up my kids in car line, I'll pull this out and knit on it. So it's slow going, and I've showed it to you guys before. And what I'm doing is a vanilla sock, 64 stitches on 2.25 millimeter Addy sock rockets, magic loop, and I'm doing the everything afterthought. I've never done this before, but essentially what you do is you start with your ribbing, or however you're going to be doing the top of your sock, and mine is 1x1 ribbing, only for like an inch. Then you just do your stockinette forever and ever and ever, and then you do the ribbing on the other side, and then I will be cutting in both toes and both heels after I cut it in half. And maybe I'll do a tutorial to show you how I do it when I cut in heels and toes. And that's going to be a while yet because I like my socks to be kind of long. Not long, but I like them to go up my calf and then I slouch them down. Because where I work, we often have crazy sock day and things like that that the kids love. So then I can wear them with my Mary Jane shoes, and the kids just love it, especially when they find out that I knitted them myself. So yeah. Now this yarn, excuse me, I didn't look it up. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to go back into a different episode. I think it's Atomic Bomb colorway or something like that. And I think it's yarn to die for. It was a gift from my knitting bestie, Meredith. But I don't remember anymore, and I don't have the tag. But it's a really eye-searing pink, hot pink, speckled with some blacks and navies, and it's great yarn. I love it. Perfect for silly socks, right? Crazy socks. I'm loving this pooling here. I think that's kind of cool and unexpected, because that wasn't happening anywhere else, right? Everywhere else it was pretty uniform, and all of a sudden it started to pool here. And I really like that character of hand-dyed yarn, wild hand-dyed yarn. So yes, this is a slow-moving project. Now that it's summertime, I still keep it in my glove compartment, and I might actually work on it a little bit more. The nice thing about working on socks in the summer is you don't have the weight of a shawl, a woolen shawl or garment sitting on your lap warming you up, unless you're in air conditioning. So I'll probably work a little bit more on these socks over the summer, since it's so portable and so easy, and I don't need a pattern. So yeah, just a basic vanilla sock, 64 stitches, which seems to be the best size for me. I might give these ones to my sister, actually. She might be coming down to visit in August with my mom. Again, fingers crossed. It's been even longer since I've seen my sister. I might have to measure her feet. I've been promising her socks for years, but she's got bigger feet than me, and I always get nervous if I can't actually measure their feet. So when she's here, I might finish them for her then. So we'll see. All right. The next thing I'm going to show you is a languishing whip that I've had for well over a year, that I set aside and then I picked up a couple of months ago, and that's the Lunai Shawl by Moonstruck Knits. I think that's her name. I'll post a picture here. And I really love this shawl, but I had stopped because I had made a silly mistake quite some time ago. Hold on. And then I had to, it's a mosaic knitting, and then, where was it? I don't even remember anymore. I had made a silly mistake somewhere. I think it was over in this area. And so I picked it back from the corner here all the way to here. Now, that might not sound like that big of a deal, but when it's mosaic knitting, with all the slip stitching and yarn overs and all that kind of stuff that created this beautiful star stitch pattern, you can't just frog. Like, you can't just pull and pull and pull. And you can't, I didn't want to just cut it because I wanted to make sure I had enough yarn to finish the project. So it took me so many hours to pull it back, and I really shouldn't have, because I don't think the mistake was that big of a deal, and I could have just fudged it. But anyways, I finally got back on track, and I'm kind of at the home stretch. I'm now working on this edging part. I'm sorry, this is kind of cumbersome. It's a big shawl. I'm working on this part, and I've made so many mistakes, and I've had to tink, right, knitting backwards, tink so many times. And it's always been my own fault. It's a very well-written pattern, very clear, but you also have to pay attention, because it's to do the mosaic, the part with the red, the contrasting, it's charted, which is fine, but mosaic charts are different. You have to read them differently from regular charts. At least that's the way she does hers. And when I picked it up and fixed it and then got going and I got into the charted section, I just started working the chart like I normally would and was wondering why nothing was working out, realizing that, oh wait, you have to do mosaic charts by this lady differently. So I had to pick back. I've just picked back and tinked back so many times that I'm so invested now in this shawl that I have to finish it. And I love it. I absolutely love it. It's not like anything I've ever knit before, the texture and all that kind of stuff and the patterning. But I'm at a point now where I've somehow made another mistake and I'm off on my stitches. So I have more tinking to do. I have to tink back to the dark gray. I've done something wrong with the this part, I think. But I'm not touching it right now because I'm not 100% sure that what I've done is necessarily wrong. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Let's just say I like to enjoy a glass of wine or two when I'm knitting, and I can't do that with this shawl. And so, in other words, the shawl gets put aside in favor of a glass of wine or two. But I'm going to have to pick it back up and just get it done. It's time. So the yarn that I've been using for my Lunai Shawl, Natasha Hornsby. Natasha Hornsby is her name. Anyway, the designer of the Lunai Shawl. The yarn that I've been using are these three. The two grays are just grays that I dyed up on my Trojan's base, which is an 80/20. Loving this for a shawl. That I just dyed up, just a couple grays, because I wanted it to go with this really beautiful red, which is Travel Knitter, their BFL sock yarn in the Double Happiness colorway. And I picked this up years ago in London at one of the fantastic yarn stores in London. It wasn't Loop, it was a different one. Woolly something. I can't remember. I'm telling you guys, my memory is like Swiss cheese. I just cannot believe it. So it's a BFL sock yarn, and they go together really nice. The gray and red combination is beautiful. Like I said, something I don't normally knit in the mosaic textured, but I'm loving it. So I can see why mosaic knitting is getting very popular right now. It's a lot of fun to knit. But remember, the charts are different. Okay, now I have another shawl that I'm knitting that I'm knitting two different versions of it, but one is going to stop. Now this is one that I've showed you guys in the past, again about a year ago, which is the Joji Locatelli Venezia shawl. It's just a single skein shawl, something really light and airy that I wanted to knit. And I had originally started knitting it on my Dry It colorway, which is this very vibrant green and yellows and browns and blues. I really, really like it. But I just kind of stopped knitting, and originally, if this is going back several episodes, I said, I'm going out of my comfort zone. I'm just going to let the yarn do what it's going to do in this particular pattern. But what I was just finding is that the yarn and the pattern really don't go well together, in my opinion. So I just kind of stopped knitting it. But I haven't tore it out yet because I'm not 100% sure I'm going to abandon it. But what I did decide to do was pick a yarn for this pattern that I think is just better suited. And that is a new colorway of mine called Ambrosia, which is named after the nectar of the gods, right? Going along with my theme, which has soft pinks and blues and yellows and oranges in it. It's like very sort of little speckles of kind of a rusty orange. And if, really, if you just throw in a little bit of lime green, you've got the Ambrosia Jello salad, those disgusting things. But anyways, I just feel like it's a better match, something a little more delicate, because this is an intricate shawl. Okay, as you can see, we've got the patterning on the outside, V's, and then it's coming up and it's going to become really wide, and then it's like a diamond shaped shawl. And it's a very intricate pattern. Another one that I have to be very careful when I'm knitting this one. I have to focus and concentrate. It's not a hard pattern. None of them are hard patterns, and they're very well written patterns, but I have to really pay attention and keep notes and a stitch counter and you name it. Like, I've got all the bells and whistles around me when I'm knitting this. And so I just feel like a very soft and delicate pattern needs a more soft and delicate yarn. I just think it's going to work better. Even this, I think it'll be better once it's blocked out, but even this, I'm wondering if it's too colorful for this pattern. But I think it'll work, especially once it's all stretched out and blocked. It'll really be airy. Even stretched out and blocked, I can't see this feeling airy, right? So I think that once this one is done, it'll be my sample for this yarn color. If I'm really happy with this one, I'll rip this one out and put the yarn into something else. I just feel like the beautiful pattern detail gets lost in the vibrancy of the yarn color. But everything else I'm following, you know, the everything out, like the needle size 7, all that kind of stuff. And look, I had forgotten about this beautiful stitch marker I had made to go with it. Sort of a nice green and brownish yellowish stitch marker, just made special to go with this yarn. So yeah, I don't think that this particular project is gonna live. I think it's gonna be tore out and frogged eventually. But this is, like I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful pattern by Joji Locatelli. I really like the one skein shawls. As a yarn dyer, an indie yarn dyer, a lot of us, we do not have the time to knit up samples of all of our yarns that we dye up, especially if we're kind of like, I'm a sort of free-spirited dyer. I just dye what I feel like. Sometimes I don't write the recipe down, so I can never make it again. And if I sell it out before I knit it up, that's it. I can't knit a sample with it. So it's very hard for me as an indie dyer to always have knitted samples of my yarn. But this one, I thought it would just be a nice match, and that way you can see it knit up. But this particular colorway, Ambrosia, I have on some fingering weight, DK, sort of heavy DK worsted weight, as well as Aran weight. And it looks really beautiful on the Aran weight as well. So if you're interested, check it out at Medusa Yarn and Fiber, medusayarn.com. Yeah, so that's about, that's it for my knitting content. So that's it for my knitting content. If you're interested in checking out my hand-dyed yarn, please do. There's links below. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. All the different places you can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, is all listed below. So please do check out my social media profile. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.